A lot of moms and dads throughout America tonight are going to lie down and try to sleep and not be able to. And when moms and dads throughout America lie down to sleep and can't, more times than not in America today, they're worried about the cost of living. I get that. These high prices started under President Biden, but that's not why I'm here today. I don't want to blame this on anyone. It is what it is. I just know that you shouldn't have to sell blood plasma in America to go to the grocery store. I just know that you ought to be able to afford a home in America. It's part of the American dream. The cost has gotten way out of hand. When you're having to pay $500,000 if you can get a loan to buy and live in a refrigerator box behind Outback, something's wrong in our country. And don't get me started on the cost of health care and health insurance and all the other daily expenses that moms and dads have. They're worried, and I understand they're worried. That's why I want to talk for a few minutes before I talk about Minneapolis, because I do want to address that. But that's why I want to talk for a few minutes about taxes. And I know some may be thinking, why does Kennedy just talked about the cost of living in America. Why does he want to talk about taxes? I know people think I don't like paying taxes. They're thinking, I'd rather have to listen to OJ jokes for the rest of eternity than to have to pay taxes. Nobody likes to pay taxes. It's the price we pay to live in a civilized society. But this year we have some good news with respect to taxes. And it's a result of changes to our tax code, Mr. President, and you know this well, that we made in the One Big Beautiful Bill. We're told not to call it the One Big Beautiful Bill anymore. There's a new name for it, but frankly, I think the American people are smart enough to know what we're talking about, no matter what name we give to it. As a result of the changes that we made, and when I say we, I don't take any joy in having to point out that this was done with only Republican votes. We tried to entice our Democratic friends to join with us. They chose not to. That's their choice. It's a free country. But the tax changes that we made were made solely with Republican votes, and I'm proud of them. And I hope both Republicans and Democrats take advantage of them. As a result of these tax changes, the American people are going to receive up to $100 billion in tax refunds. $100 billion, not million, $100 billion. What am I talking about? Many people, as you know, Mr. President, who are in the hospitality business are no longer going to have to pay for their 2025 taxes on tips. Not everybody. I don't want to overstate the case. But many of our people in the hospitality industry who make most of their income from tips, as a result of the changes we made for 2025, we meaning the Republicans, are not going to have to pay taxes on a portion of those tips. many folks in 2025, not everyone, but many people in 2025 who worked overtime. They're not going to have to pay taxes, income taxes on that overtime. That also is contributing to this $100 billion that's going to be returned to the American people in tax refunds. In our one big beautiful bill, we also increased the standard deduction for a two-parent or two-income household. We increased the standard deduction by $1,500. It's going to mean a lot of money back in people's pockets. The standard deduction for joint filers is now $31,500. As we were making these tax changes, and we again, regrettably, we did it with only Republican votes. We had to. But as we made these tax changes, we also put in a tax reduction for our seniors. People over 65, not everybody, but many Americans over 65 are going to get a new $6,000 senior reduction. What else did we do? Well, if you, for example, property taxes, we changed the deduction from $10,000 to $40,000. So that means you have a higher deduction on your taxes, means your taxes are going to go down. We increased the child tax credit. It's now $2,200 for every child that you have. We increased it by $200 per child. Many folks, again, I don't want to overstate the case, but many folks who have borrowed money to buy a car and are paying interest will get to deduct a portion of that interest that they pay on their automobile purchase as a result of the changes we made in the one big beautiful bill. And I could go on about other changes we made for small businesses. One in particular, if you're a sub-S corporation, a subchapter S corporation, or you're a limited partnership, or what we call an LLC in Louisiana, that stands for Louisiana Limited Liability Corporation, which means that you're taxed directly on the income that your small business earns. We made permanent the 20% reductions for distributions of business income for LLCs and LLPs and sub-S corporations. So if you add all of these tax changes up, and again, I didn't talk about all of the tax changes in the one big beautiful bill, but if you added the ones up that I talked about, that means an extra $100 billion in people's pockets throughout America. Democrats, Republicans, independents. And most people have more money held out of their check than they owe the IRS. And that's not unusual, particularly when we make tax changes. I mention that because this means that $100 billion people are going to get checks from the federal government. They're going to get money back. God bless them. They deserve it. Now, I've got a couple of tips about how you can get that money back quickly. If you're able to do three things. If you file early, file your tax return. If you want your money back as quickly as possible, file your tax return early. Number two, file electronically. I know for some that's a pain. I don't much like it. I like to file a paper return, but some people like to file electronically. Some people don't, but if you do file electronically, you're going to get your money back from the federal government more quickly. The third thing you need to do is to tell the federal government that you don't want a paper check. You'd like your money deposited directly into your bank account. If you do those three things, file early, file electronically, and tell the IRS that you want the money sent directly, electronically, into your bank account, then you're likely to get your tax refund within 2 to 3 weeks. Your portion of that $100 billion, thanks to the one big beautiful bill that Republicans in the House and the Senate passed. That's going to help a lot in terms of dealing with the cost of living in America. And I'm very proud of our effort. Now let me say a word about Minneapolis. There's a lot we know. There's a lot we don't know. I want to talk about 3 things we do know. Number 1, the loss of life in Minneapolis was a tragedy. And if you can't admit that, you have a padlock on your heart. It was a tragedy. We don't have all the facts. I know everyone's seen the videos, but the people involved haven't been interviewed. There are a lot of facts we have, but a lot of facts we don't have. And I am not going to rush to judge. I'm not going to rush to judge. President Trump has promised a full and thorough and transparent investigation. And I thank him for that. But regardless of what we find out, we all have to concede, we all should concede that the loss of life in Minneapolis was a tragedy. And I'm sorry it happened. Number 2, this is the second thing that I know. You don't have to be Einstein's cousin. You don't have to be a senior at Caltech to know that illegal immigration is illegal. Duh. It's illegal. And those of us who believe that no one is above the law, we all say we believe that. I believe it. No one, those of us who say that no one is above the law have to concede that people in our country illegally are not above the law either. The law applies to them as well. Our immigration statutes are not second-tier laws. They matter just as much as the other statutes that have been passed by the elected members of Congress. And just like the other laws, the immigration laws have consequences and should have consequences if you violate them. Now, so I guess what I'm saying, Mr. President, is I support enforcement of our immigration laws. Now, how you enforce those laws, matters. Those laws, like all laws, have to be enforced in accordance with due process. Those immigration statutes, like all laws, have to be enforced in accordance with equal protection. Those laws have to be enforced in accordance with a well-known Supreme Court case, 1968, called Terry v. Ohio, which sets forth the standards. Reasonable suspicion is the standard chosen by the Supreme Court, by which someone can be stopped and questioned when a law enforcement official doesn't have probable cause. Terry v. Ohio has to be followed. So number 1, illegal immigration is illegal We should enforce our immigration laws, but how we enforce them matters. Third and final point. You have the right to protest in America. Let me say that again. You have the right to protest in America. You do not have the right to protest violently. And in fact, violence, as you protest, undermines the morality of the thing that you're protesting over. Let me say that again. Violence, if you choose violence when you protest, that undermines the morality of the movement that you say your movement is based upon. You know who else understood that? Dr. King. King understood it. Gandhi understood it. Mandela understood it. Violently protesting, not protesting, but violently protesting undermines the morality that you say your cause is built upon. It's also dangerous. It's dangerous it's dangerous and it's stupid. It's 12-piece bucket of stupid. Because when you protest violently, when you interfere with a cop or an ICE officer, it's not going to end well. It's not. Under the best of circumstances, these officers are trying to enforce federal law. And the people with respect to whom they're trying to enforce federal law are in most cases, I'm not going to say all cases, but in most cases are criminals. Not criminals because they're here illegally, though that too is a violation of our law, but criminals because they have violated other laws, in many cases felonies. And those ICE officials, those cops are scared. They're scared. They're dealing with someone who could be armed, someone who could be dangerous. So you've got a powder keg. And when protesters choose to protest violently and harass those ICE officials and blow whistles in their ears and block their way and spit in their faces and curse them and curse their children, they're giving off sparks in a powder keg. And it's not going to end well in many cases. And the truth of the matter is, it's been my experience in life, most, I'm not going to say all, most cops will leave you alone unless you do illegal stuff. So, as we go forward in America and try to enforce our laws in conformity with the United States Constitution, as we go forward together in America, and while we're respecting people's constitutional rights, we respect our law enforcement officials who are doing a very difficult job. As we go forward in America today, as the President has promised, to have a full and fair and transparent investigation of the tragic loss of life in Minneapolis, I hope we can keep those three things that I think all of us can agree upon in mind.